Right, time now for a look at what's grabbing headlines around the world. Catherine Viette back in the studio with me. Hi again, Catherine. And no surprise that the media is marking the 5th anniversary of that deadly tsunami and earthquake that devastated Japan.
We're going to start with the Japanese press, take a look at what's being covered back in Japan. The Japan Times, no surprise, has a huge special report section on its website documenting what's happened in the past 5 years. One of the things that's very interesting is on their front page of the website, they show aerial photos of one of the prefectures, the Miyagi prefecture, that was hard hit. So you can see here the first photo before the tsunami, that was 2006. Right a few days after, in the center there, you see lots of buildings swept away. And now this was taken like just last week. So you can see, you know, there's been some reconstruction, but a huge difference between before and after there with those photos. And we stay with the paper. It's reporting that many of the survivors, again in the Miyagi prefecture, are falling through the cracks, that the first year after the disaster, lots of volunteers, aid agencies there, money was being handed out to repair damaged buildings. But now, 5 years on, those who have stayed, you know, the money's been handed out. People like retirees, they don't have big incomes. Some of the money didn't cover all of the reconstruction efforts. They're still living in damaged buildings. So, you know, progress has been made, but more needs to happen.
Okay, well, the papers outside Japan marking the anniversary as well.
Yes, The Guardian is reporting on the orphans from the tsunami, those who lost both parents here. And they said, you know, it's been, they've had a huge psychological impact from this, almost like PTSD. And the government is looking to offer, you know, help for the bereaved as part of reconstruction efforts. And it says that for many of those that were, many of those devastated towns, they'll need these young people to come back if they want to help them grow.
Okay, and one Japanese artist has been documenting the fallout.
Right, this is actually from the German press, Der Spiegel, because there's an exhibition of these photos going on right now over there. It's Japanese photographer Masamichi Kagaya, and you know, radiation you can't see, obviously. So he was looking for ways to document this. Like, how can we make people understand the devastation here?
Right.
So he's been collecting objects that are contaminated, and through a process that he calls radiography with a scientist from one of the universities in Tokyo, you can look and see the original object and then the contamination or the radiation levels from it. So some photos there. I think we can take a look now. That's a snake, so you can see the outside of the snake, and then with this special process, you can see the radiation inside. A couple more images that of boots and scissors and other just everyday objects that he's collected.
Okay, well, moving on, there's a lot of discussion surrounding those leaked files on the Islamic State group fighters.
Yes, several governments have received these documents that we have been talking about in the press. It's not the first time things like this have been recovered, but it's considered a coup, according to The Guardian, and despite the possibility of discrepancies within some of the information, whether it's logos and whatnot, that the governments are pretty sure most of the information is true. In the UK, the government's been scouring these lists for the names of some British jihadis. That's the same thing that the German government is doing. The German paper Süddeutsche is reporting that it's difficult to prove membership in a terrorist organization, and that they're hopeful that, you know, these documents can provide them some of the evidence they need if they have any German returning jihadists. And the opposition Syrian website, Zaman al-Wazi, has actually put online some of these documents if you're interested in seeing them for yourself. And they've scoured through and pulled some out, and they said that of the documents they've seen, 122 people checked off the box that said they'd like to be suicide bombers.
Interesting. Okay, well, let's head on over to the U.S. now. President Barack Obama has given a wide-ranging interview, but he wasn't always complimentary of America's allies.
Indeed. It's an exclusive interview in the Atlantic magazine, and I just pull out a couple of pieces from it because it's quite long. Definitely worth a read to go back and look at the whole thing. He has some very sharp criticism over Libya. He says ultimately the intervention there was a failure. And a quote exactly from the article here: "There's room for criticism because I had more faith in the Europeans given Libya's proximity being invested in the follow-up." And he directs some of the blame towards David Cameron, the UK Prime Minister. He says that Cameron, quote, became distracted by a range of other things. And, well, at the time, the French President, Nicolas Sarkozy, he too comes in for some blame. Obama says that Sarkozy tried to claim the spotlight over there and that he was busy trumpeting all the flights that France was making.
Okay, Catherine, thanks very much for that. Catherine Viet there with the press review. You're watching live from Paris. Stay tuned. I'll have more news and headlines in just a few moments.